Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jamie Club podcast and this very special bonus edition of the show. On this episode, I thought it would be good to put together some of the recent vlogs I've recorded and see what you think about those. So please just jump on the conversation, whichever platform you're viewing this or listening to this on. Please let me know. Obviously, review the show. 5-star reviews are always helpful. Like, subscribe, share, do all the obvious stuff, please. And let me know. The topics are a wide variety, and they've been prompted by different questions and different reoccurring themes that I see popping up in the self-protection and martial arts community and the outside world. We often tend to forget that we exist in these bubbles. Anyway, please put your feedback in there. Let's get the conversations going. Let everybody else know about this. Let me know what you think about these bonus episodes. And that's it for now. Let's just get right into them.
Before the existence of written records, humans systematized combat. From prehistory and into the modern day, martial arts have been a part of the fabric of culture and civilization. Whether as a means of self-protection, or to wage war, or to compete, or to preserve a tradition, or to touch personal greatness, these codified methods push us to ask questions, to explore, to express, to test, and to tell stories. This is Jamie Club's podcast, the official podcast of Club Chimera Martial Arts, where we take the path of the vagabond warrior to find knowledge and inspiration from people, events, and ideas. If you are interested in where to follow Jamie Club and Club Chimera products and services, please wait until the end of the show. In the meantime, if you think this product is worth the price of a cup of coffee, please click on Support the Show in this episode's show notes.
Self-protection versus policy. I'm describing the sometimes antagonistic relationship between the act of self-defense, that is the physical element of self-protection, our legal right to defend ourselves from a physical assault, whether it is actually taking place or just prior to it taking place, provided we have an honestly held belief that an assault is about to take place, and the problems an individual might encounter from a person in a position of authority in an institution, or the institution itself going back to their actual policies. These policies are often not supported by law. So we're talking about schools, we're talking about businesses, and we're sometimes talking about security firms. And all these were highlighted recently in a seminar that I ran back at my private gym. It was the Animal Instincts teacher training program for children's self-protection that I co-run with my co-creator of the program, Mary Stevens of the Athena School of Karate, also a school teacher. And both of us have regularly heard different anecdotes and come up against issues from people in positions of authority who will discipline individuals who defend themselves. Fortunately, we've also worked with a lot of very progressive head teachers, CEOs, proprietors of companies. So we know that there's a lot of good people out there, but unfortunately, there's a huge amount of ignorance, and it goes right back to issues in society with regards to our relationship with self-protection, certainly in the developed world. So I appreciate self-defense laws can vary across the world, although most of them pretty much conform to some very basic principles, and that is that you are legally allowed as a citizen to defend yourself against a violent attack, an unlawful violent attack. So it's not being arrested by obviously a police officer, but if someone tries to attack you, tries to assault you, you can defend yourself. And you, in most cases, that can be even a preemptive action. And I have quite comfortably taught that in front of many head teachers, many CEOs, many proprietors of companies, and they've been cool with it. And I've also spoke to lots of people involved in the security industry who teach SIA courses, so they the legal qualification for people involved in the security industry, where they have to teach the Home Office approved methods. And these individuals will teach those methods, and then they will teach something that's a little bit more responsible in mid to high level risk situations, because often the Home Office approved methods are only really practical when there's more people involved, as in more security professionals involved to assist you, or it's a low risk situation. Often these methods are not only ineffective, but they will actually expose you to more danger. They're very idealistic, but of course a lot of companies like to get behind those because it means that they've got less chance of being sued by the antagonist who the security person's dealing with. We then move that back to schools, and sadly we get situations where teachers of martial arts schools and self-defense schools are getting reports back that pupils are being expelled for defending themselves. There was one situation that was brought up at the course where I heard about an individual who wasn't even using a preemptive action. They were actually being attacked, and it was being recorded on CCTV. They're being attacked from behind by another pupil, and they defended themselves successfully. But unfortunately, that pupil was expelled. And you tend to get this blanket policy about violence. And equally, we have members of staff who aren't allowed to intercede in a violent situation. So a pupil could be facing a life-threatening situation from another pupil, and effectively you've got an adult just standing by watching it. That's what it boils down to, because they can't physically intercede, even though legally they can, but it's against school policy. So these are big issues that we need to address, and it needs to be addressed in self-protection. And this is where, we, in many sense, I mean, I always believe that self-protection needs to be apolitical, but in such situations like this, it definitely does need to be political. These issues need to be raised, certainly in a time of escalating violence, and we're seeing that certainly with teenagers in schools. The reports are coming back in that violence is becoming a regular occurrence. It always is a difficult area for children because of the tactile relationships that they have as they start growing up through their preteens into their adolescence. Their sort of tactile relationships, the lines between their boundaries get blurred, and various different situations occur which would be regarded as being assault with adults. But they have their legal right to defend themselves. A school is not a Vatican, even though it sometimes might operate like that in whatever procedures they want to bring in place that aren't necessarily in alignment with the law. If you're attacked, if you're physically attacked, you have a legal right to defend yourself and also to report it to the police. So these are important things that individuals need to be informed about. But again, I'd like to emphasize again that we've worked with a lot of really forward-thinking proprietors of companies, directors, CEOs of companies, head teachers who are totally on board with good self-protection teaching, sensible self-protection teaching. As a society, we need to understand that civilians have a right to defend themselves, and they shouldn't be it's important that they understand, obviously, the laws of the land, and that's the reason why we teach these things on our courses. But it is really, really important that they understand where they stand in such situations. So when they're faced by figures of authority, they can do that. This is the reason why we like to get parents on board when we're teaching students, but also why companies, should be for adult self-protection courses, should have their senior members of staff involved on such courses and should be understanding of what it means by self-defense and what that could entail.
Show me some moves.
So, as a self-protection teacher, I often encounter very peculiar responses from individuals which come from probably the perceptions of self-protection as it has been taught over the last century or so. And one of the classic responses is the line, I better not try something on with you then. So when I'm introduced at some event where strangers are brought together, a networking event, social event, or whatever, I appreciate that it's meant in good humor. I don't think it was ever one of Groucho Marx's great lines. I don't think it'll ever go down as one of the greatest witticisms of all time, or even one of the greatest icebreakers of all time. But some people feel compelled to say it and think it should warrant a laugh. Yeah, bless you. But I think about the peculiarity of it. So if I take it at face value, and we use the aphorism, adage, or proverb that many a true word spoken in jest, we understand that human beings do have a strong violent side to them, and it's often beneath the surface. The majority of human beings, due to social conditioning, due to the way that civilization has been built up over various generations and has evolved, won't be violent. I mean, there are survival reasons for this as well, but that violent impulse is definitely there, and it is part of our makeup. It's part of our DNA. So my view on that is that you should channel that maybe into some sort of combat sport or some sort of event where you can get that sort of release and put it into something that is productive. Hence the reason why I teach martial arts as well as self-protection, and I teach it separately. Perhaps a topic for another vlog. But anyway, maybe you should have a little word with yourself when you think about who you would try it on with. I hope there isn't lots of otherwise well-meaning individuals going about life who will stop and look at people and say, I better try something on with them. I mean, because I do get the sort of cousin to this where some people say, I was thinking, if I wanted to pick a fight, I might pick someone like you, and then I find out what you do, and I think again, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, there's all these sociopaths all roaming around amongst us, thinking about who they want to pick fights with or who they want to try something on with, going, heaven knows what that's supposed to mean. But anyway, maybe just have a little talk with yourself. That would be my my advice on that side of things. But the other thing I think about is obviously the perception that self-protection offers. And I think, well, actually, if you were to try something on with an individual like me, we, as a self-protection teacher, we should be best equipped to be the sort of person you want to try it on with, because if it's a socially violent situation, we will be able to calm you down. That's exactly what it's all about, de-escalation. It's part of the service that I deliver, part of the service that I teach. When I'm booked by individuals for businesses, a lot of the time we're looking at de-escalation. And we start off with self-de-escalation, obviously, but it goes on into being able to de-escalate different individuals. So I'm probably one of the best people to try it on with, because I'm a person who will make you question being violent at all in the first place. Self-defense is not crap MMA and running away. So why did I write that? And what do I mean by it? Well, I did it as an anticipatory response to possible criticism that could be directed towards the type of self-defense training and self-defense skills that I support and endorse. And so let's just break it down. So first of all, what do I mean by self-defense? Well, I put in brackets physical skills, because believe it or not, people debate about that. So for me, self-defense is the legally defined term that we talk about. So if you are in a physical altercation with somebody and you believe you have acted lawfully, you will usually be claiming self-defense. Okay, so you go to a court of law and you've been in a fight with somebody and you believe that you shouldn't be prosecuted for causing a disturbance, you shouldn't be prosecuted for causing an affray, you shouldn't be prosecuted for an assault, grievous bodily harm, actual bodily harm, or all the other various aggravated assault charges that could be thrown at you. You believe that you have acted lawfully in your use of force. That usually means you're claiming self-defense, and self-defense is determined by a group of your peers in a jury and a judge. So that is what I mean by self-defense, and that's how I call it. Self-protection is the umbrella term. We've gone through this, I'm sure, on other vlogs and blogs and a lot of my written material. So it's the umbrella term, okay, for all personal protection skills, and a large part of that is personal security, which is the most important area, the largest part of the training. So let's not get into the debates on that one. I'm talking about the hard skills at the moment, because some people believe that all the personal security is great and they might be fully supportive of that. But when it comes to physical skills, they often think that martial arts training will suffice and substitute for it. And they might think that combatives training might be fine, but a combat sport might be fine. And although there's a lot of crossover within those areas and an awful lot that self-defense physical skills can benefit from those particular areas, a lot of martial arts began as self-protection systems, as self-defense systems, for example. Although all those things do count to a certain degree, the actual self-defense is different, and we can talk about that on another vlog. But it's not what it isn't is crap MMA. Okay, so what do I mean by crap MMA? Well, obviously, I'm not putting down MMA. I teach MMA. MMA is a big part of what I teach, but in both in its composite forms, the various different arts that support it: boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, various forms of wrestling, submission grappling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, all areas that I'm actively involved with, and the actual sport of MMA, mixed martial arts. And let's get that completely clear, because some people claim something is mixed martial arts, and although technically nobody owns the rights to the name mixed martial arts, and one can get done for trade descriptions, the general consensus of opinion is that MMA, the acronym, has become the term used to describe the combat sport of MMA, most popularly shown by organizations like the Ultimate Fighting Championship and Bellator and various other ones, and Strike Force, and there's lots of different MMA organizations. But anyway, it is a full contact combat sport consisting of punching, kicking, knees, elbows, grappling, takedown, submissions. Fights are normally determined either by a knockout or a submission or a decision, in much the same way as many other combat sports are. So that's what I mean by MMA. And of course, I say I'm not putting it down, but I'm not. What I'm not saying as well is that what self-defense is just MMA, or MMA for the street, if you like. Although I have to admit, in the past I have used that term, but it's not. It's not. Self-defense is something determined by its circumstances, and it doesn't just mean just poorly executed MMA, and therefore good MMA would just suffice, even though it can give certain advantages. And it's not running away. Again, running away is just a really broad general term as well. And some people just use it as their answer to a conflict situation. Oh, I just run away. Particularly if weapons are involved, people say, I just run away. And other people would say, well, I can't run away. And I'll give you a whole host of reasons why they can't run away. And often the arguments that I would put for the problem with blindly running away. So no, it's not just running away from a situation. Self-defense isn't that either. I have divided up on this particular meme some various distinctive elements of good self-defense training, which all people who teach self-defense training should include and should be aware of. And so if you're a consumer, and my guess is that the majority of you who are watching this are people who are interested in booking self-defense courses, or interested in knowing about self-protection, rather than people necessarily are teaching it. But of course, if you're a teacher as well, then hopefully this might be useful in some way, and you can put your comments up as well. All feedback is great. So first of all, it's unpredictable in nature. So that means it can happen at any time. It's nearly always inconvenient. So that's a big distinction between just about most other forms of fighting. Any form of agreed fighting, there's something about the convenience. So it might be if somebody steps out to have a fight with somebody, they might not want to step outside to have a fight with somebody. They might not want to actually kick off and have a fight with somebody. Maybe it's a peer pressure thing that they're doing. But there is a degree of convenience in the respect that they've agreed to do something. Okay. So in self-defense, it is your absolute last option. It's an unavoidable physical situation. Either you use force, or you get physically hurt in some way, or you're having force used against you in some way against your will. So you're doing that to stop it or prevent that. So there's no preset conditions, location, or agreements. So none of those things come into play when you're claiming self-defense. As soon as you go into those, then you're consenting to a fight. And it usually takes the form of an ambush. So that you don't get more inconvenient than that, if you like. And that sort of thing doesn't happen within any form of agreed match fight. And as I said, when I say match fight, I'm not just talking about sporting events. I'm encompassing street fights as well. So which they don't take the form of ambushes. Okay, so that makes up the unpredictability of self-defense, although I'm sure there's plenty of other bullet points I could have added to that. So the asymmetrical dynamic. Now, this is one of the big defining points I put about physical training in self-defense. So people love talking about there's no rules in self-defense. And I've purposely not written that down there because people do have their rules. Their rules are defined by where they stand morally on a situation. They're defined by the legal consequences of a physical altercation. All those sort of things come in. So I don't like to go into that whole territory of there's no rules in a self-defense situation and that part of it. So I like to talk about something called the asymmetrical dynamic. And what this is first of all, it couldn't be clear. It couldn't be clearer in the respect that it's defender versus aggressor. So quite simply, the person claiming self-defense is defending their situation. They can be preemptive. They could be the first person to physically act, if you like, because they see an attack is imminent and they can't avoid it. Or they could be responding physically to a situation where somebody has attacked them. So it's defender versus aggressor. So that immediately makes an asymmetrical dynamic. So a predator who's decided to mug somebody or to rape somebody or to incapacitate them in any way is targeting someone, and that target is the defender as they're using self-defense. So that creates a totally different dynamic. So any assault that you have ever heard of or seen or hopefully not been involved in, but if that has happened to you, you'll know that there is that asymmetrical dynamic. It's not two people fighting off in a consensual manner. It's a person attacking and a person defending. Okay, so that starts it. So elements like preemptive striking come into play, and preemptive striking has no place in any form of match fighting. It doesn't mean you're just the first person who strikes. A preemptive strike is often set up with deception. It's often done when the other person isn't expecting it. That's the whole kind of setup of a preemptive strike. So the equivalent to that in a match fight would be you hitting somebody as they step out of the locker room to fight you. Okay, or when you step in the cage or step in the ring, and the referee, before as he's about to give you both your instructions, you attack him with something or attack her with something straight away. Then that's examples of preemption. Obviously, within a self-defense situation, it's going to be legally done, so it's not an assault, if you like. It's a counter assault, but it's preemptive, and preemption you don't really see in an agreed consensual fight. Tactical escape. Okay, so this is the running away, if you like. So tactical escape is not just blindly running away. It's escaping from a situation in a way that allows you to get to a point of safety. So you're not running away from the threat. You're going to a point of safety. You've got a place to go to, you know where you're headed to, what exit you're headed to, where the exit leads. When you do so, you are keeping your eyes on the threat until you can get a strong enough distance, a long enough distance between you and them in order to make your escape. And so that all of that is a tactical escape, and that includes how you are going to be moving. It doesn't necessarily have to be a run. Sometimes you can be removing yourself from a situation when you can feel that something bad's going to happen in a certain environment, and so you edge your way towards the door slowly. That can be a form of tactical escape. And to full-on running, you could be running in a park, running inside a building, any number of different places where it could be a tactical escape. And it has an entire area of training which should be in your self-defense training. So tactical escape, big part of it, and you just don't get that really. I mean, you have to go to a sport like rugby to see anything that resembles tactical escape, and it's not exactly the same thing. Although I have to say, there's some very good attributes you can pull from a sport like rugby or American or Aussie rules football, etc. Okay, there's no to and fro fighting. So it comes back to this asymmetry here. So symmetrical fighting allows for to and fro fighting, circling, feinting, or range finding. These are all the things that you do in an agreed match fight. So when you're fighting another person, the to and fro element comes in because you go to a certain range that allows for that backwards and forwards. You want to and fro because you're trying to anticipate their moves, you're trying to set up moves, you're creating situations and opportunities for you to attack. Any of those things present yourself in a self-defense situation, that's when you go to a tactical escape. So it doesn't play any role. You don't feint. There's not you're not playing by the same rule set as somebody else. Okay, so a feint, for example, in boxing is not going to work necessarily for a person who's going to attack you. A feint that you would do in Muay Thai, to set up another attack isn't going to be the same thing that you'll find in a self-defense situation. So, and certainly range finding, as I say, the ranges are you're either in range or out of range. You're out of range and you're escaping. So, we then go to scalability. So it needs to be scalable. Self-defense has to be scalable in order for it to be proportionate. So there's low risk situations. So this again often is the problem. People, when they're being critical of some self-defense training, they look at situations usually through their own lens, without a lot of empathy, and the situations that a person would encounter, depending on their age, gender, size, environment, even culture, can be totally different to another person. So, and low risk situations are a great way to look at that. So, how you do physically deal with a low risk situation, such as the insidious assault, which I covered in an earlier vlog. Then you have middle risk situations, the classic a dust up at the barbecue, if you like. You could be splitting up a fight, or somebody's needs to be just brought under control because they're going to be a danger to themselves or someone else. That's what I call a middle risk situation. And high risk situations speak for themselves. Again, this is a full force, life-threatening situation, and your response will need to be appropriate to that too. So it's got to be scalable. And again, that scalability, yeah, I do appreciate you go lighter and harder in fights, and there's a lot of sophistication with regards to that. But generally speaking, especially if you're competing, the intensity is going to be pretty much the same on both sides. There might be different paces, but pacing isn't the same as scaling. Okay, so that's a different discussion altogether. So yes, it's that scalability, and that scalability is often what catches out a lot of people who just think they can replace their self-defense training with martial arts combat sport training. Finally, legally justifiable. As I said, I define self-defense by the fact that it is a legal, it's legally justifiable. So the force is only used to prevent or stop violence. That's the whole point of that force. The second you're using it to defend your honor, because you feel insulted, because you feel your partner's been insulted, anything along those lines, then you're not claiming self-defense. So yeah, it's got to be legally justifiable. So you're using it to prevent or stop violence. You're also it's also down to the circumstances, and the circumstances can really range in self-protection. Just simply by the fact it could be your partner, it could be a family member that you're defending yourself against. So things that change with all sorts of circumstances. The force has got to be proportionate. Okay, so that is proportionate. And obviously we can go into the legal side of it there, and great books on there. Lee Sims's books, Mark Dawes's books come highly recommended. So they need to be reasonable and proportionate. And finally, the defender does not agree to fight. They did not agree to fight. So that's so important when we look at self-protection, and we're using self-defense as our argument. The defender did not agree to fight, and that in itself rules out pretty much any form of agreed or consensual violence, be it a combat sport, a street fight, or whatever.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you're so inclined, there are many ways you can express your support and help keep this podcast going. For example, I've published several books on Amazon. If you'd like a signed copy of any of them, please drop me an email. You can also purchase my online Vagabond Warriors martial arts cross-training courses and the online Animal Instincts Children's Self-Protection Teaching Programme. More direct support can be shown through Buy Me a Coffee and my Patreon page. I'm most grateful to all those who have already bought my books and courses, and those who continue to kindly donate to the show. As for my services, the heart of all that is CCMA, nowadays I teach private lessons, courses and seminars. These are bespoke services that put you in charge of your martial arts journey. I teach self-protection and martial arts cross-training. You can train with me, one-to-one, or in a small group. I count individual clients, couple clients, parent and child clients, and various other combinations. These can be taught face-to-face or virtually. I also regularly teach clubs, societies and associations nationally and internationally. Please go to clubchimera.com for more details. Please don't forget to subscribe to the show on whatever podcast platform you are currently using. If you could leave me a 5-star rating and a review, I would be most grateful. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, X and TikTok. Facebook also has a members group in addition to the main business page, so please send in a request to join in with the training discussions and be a part of the wider CCMA community. I'm also uploading new content to YouTube. There are various shorts, vlogs and full video versions of some of these podcast episodes on there. Again, please subscribe, like, share and leave a comment. All favourable engagement helps keep CCMA moving forward.